inspiring you to build the life of your dreams by teaching you how to create a career you love. This is the Job Lab Podcast with your host, Nick Murphy.
Hey there, my friend, and welcome to the Job Lab Podcast, the show that helps you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be in your career. I'm your host, Nick Murphy, and thanks for spending some time with me today here on episode number 8. I want to welcome you new listeners. I'm really happy that you're here. And if you're a frequent listener, I have a favor to ask you. When you get a minute, take a second and just think about who you know that could benefit from this show and let them know about it. Share the link on social or ping a couple people privately and help me spread the word. Speaking of social, the Job Lab Podcast is on Facebook and Instagram. So if you haven't followed us there, I'd invite you to do that. I love seeing your smiling faces. And if you find yourself wanting more than just one episode a week, I've got you covered. Just text Never Settle to 44222 to enroll in the Daily Dose. That's my 100% free daily email filled with quick wins and limitless career inspiration. If you missed last week with Amy Slater, go check it out. We talk about the importance of our personal brand, and she shares her magic formula to creating a personal brand that gets you noticed and promoted. So if you're looking to stand out from the crowd inside your company or just make a name for yourself at a new firm, or maybe you just want to better develop your story and brand message, go back and listen to episode number 7 when you have a second. Today's guest is Mark Asher, a sports talk radio host turned successful financial planner. And in this episode, which is the first one we got to tape face-to-face in studio, so it's more conversational, it's a lot of fun. I think you'll notice the difference if you're a frequent listener. But we dive into how Mark built a successful career in broadcasting, but really more importantly, what Mark did to reinvent himself when that was all taken away. He gets really personal, really into the details of a very public, very emotional, very unexpected career move. Or change, really. So if you're considering recareering or want to know how to make a move from one industry to another without missing a beat, this episode is going to be just for you. There's a ton here, so let's get right into it. Hey there, my friends. Joining me today is Mark Asher. Mark is a native to the state of Arizona and a partner with Southwest Wealth Strategies, a company which he is part owner. Prior to joining Southwest Wealth Strategies, Mark had an illustrious 15-year career as one of the top sports talk radio hosts. He co-hosted the longest-running sports show in the history of Arizona, known as the Gambo and Ash show. In addition to providing great entertainment, Mark was able to use his position in the community to help raise millions of dollars for local charities, like the Phoenix Children's Hospital and the 100 Club of Arizona. In Mark's first year in financial services, he won the prestigious award of Top New Associate in the AXA Advisors Southwest organization. Mark, thanks so much for being here.
Murph, good seeing you, buddy. How are you?
You too. How long has it been, man? We've known each other
we've known each other a long time. I don't think I've seen you in the last probably year and a half or so, maybe a couple years, obviously with your new location. But yeah, you and I go way back to the days of standing on the sidelines of Arizona State football. You as a player, me as a broadcaster. And we found many times, and I think even in the middle of games where, I don't know, we were both bored. So we just started shooting the stuff, and then we became friends and stayed friends. I followed your career in the NFL and always, kept an eye on what you were doing. And then we did some business together, and we stayed good friends. So it's always a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you for being here again. And we're all both a little bit grayer than we were back in the day.
Yeah, I'm a lot more grayer than you, Murph. First of all, you look like basically the same. Like, it's disgusting. It really somewhat upsets me. But the hairline hasn't gone back any. You're still in great shape. I'm sure you can still pump the ball at least 35 yards, right?
Yeah, I can probably do that. The widow's peak helps, right? When you have a widow's peak, naturally.
It's built in, right?
Yeah, everybody thinks I've been receding hairline since I was 15. No, it's just the way it is, dude.
It's just the way it is.
How it goes.
Good. But yes, I am a lot grayer than I used to be, but that's okay, man. I turned 44 this month of April, and what did they say? 44 is a new 34?
Something like that. I thought it was 24.
Like that. Whatever. I'm only as old as I act, and I act like a teenager, so.
There you go. Today we're going to talk about a career transition, and I want to start at the beginning. And it's a very personal story. It's a story that impacted your life, your family, your finances, and I'm sure a lot of stuff that went on in your own head as it kind of changed for you. And I think what I want the audience to get out of this is, if you're out there and you're considering a career change, if you're in the middle of one, moving from industry to industry, or if you may have been thrust into one without your consent, without your permission, and caught you totally by surprise. So I want to start at the beginning and walk all the way through that, because you've transitioned so successfully and you've made it look seamless and effortless. And so I want to dig into how you did that, and also kind of dig into what was going on mentally, because it's never as easy as it seems. So let's start at the beginning. And kind of, how'd you get started in radio? You came out of Northern Arizona with a broadcasting degree.
Yeah.
How'd you know radio was it?
I didn't. It's kind of funny. I go back to high school. I went to high school in Phoenix, Arizona, Central High School. And, I was asked at one point, I think maybe my senior year. Do you remember the announcements in high school? Like, I think it was like between second and third period, and the voice would come over the loudspeaker, and there was announcements. Hey, there's a bake sale, and there's this, and the cheerleaders are going to be in the quad, and there's a football game Friday night. Well, I was asked to do those announcements, and so I had a lot of teachers. The students all, my buddies all made fun of me, like, oh, of course, you think you're so cool, But a few teachers said, hey, you have a really nice voice, and you have a presence on the microphone. It's uncanny. And they said, you should really think about broadcasting. And I said, really? Like, I never had thought about it, dude.
What were you thinking about doing at that time?
I don't even know. Honestly, you know what I wanted to be when I was growing up? I wanted to be a sports agent. And then I found out that you had to go to law school. I was like, check that. Yeah, maybe I don't want to be an agent. But so I did these announcements, and then basically the advice of 2 or 3 advisors and teachers that I trusted, I said, you know what, maybe I'll look into that. So I got up to NAU and I started working for the campus radio station, which, dude, it was a campus radio station in Flagstaff that didn't actually have a radio dial. It came in on channel 2 on the TV. So everyone had the dorm television that you would get,
with the bunny ears and the whole deal.
It was like standard issue dorm TV. You couldn't have HBO. You just had whatever they gave you. But on channel 2, it was kind of an information page where there was all these bulletins, but in the background, it was KRCK, which was a student-run radio station. It was an alternative radio station. And so I helped put that thing. I didn't put it together. It was already in place, but I was actually one of the kind of like the people that ran it. So I was in charge of all the on-air, on-checks, air checks, I should say. I was on the air. I had different shifts. In fact, a good buddy of mine who somehow found like an old lineup sheet and posted it on Facebook the other day. I was like, oh my God. And dude, my time slot was like Tuesdays 1 to 3, Thursdays 2 to 4.
When everyone's in class or out.
Right. But dude, I didn't realize this Friday nights 6 to 8. I'm like, no wonder I was a nerd in college. Like, I wasn't getting any. I was working at a stupid campus radio station, but it was a great learning experience. And the one thing that was great about being in broadcast journalism in Flagstaff is it's Flagstaff. If I was going to school at ASU like you did, I'm in a major metropolitan city. So me going to work for a local radio station meant I was an intern, going getting papers and coffees and whatnot. But in Flagstaff, I actually got hired at a local radio station to be a real on-air DJ.
Wow.
Like, I was 19 years old. I was a DJ, dude. It was the greatest, I was getting paid to be on the radio. Right. And so I got really hands-on experience. And then I met the sports guy that was on the AM side. His name was Jeff Kennedy. And he and I struck up a friendship, still friends to this day. And he was bringing me in. He's like, man, you know a lot about sports and you're passionate. And, I went to NAU thinking I could walk on the basketball team. I was a pretty good basketball player.
Were you
like,
what, 6'5"?
Yeah. on 2 chairs. And then you quickly realize that 5'10", 155-pound white point guards or shooting guards who don't play any defense, it doesn't really work at the college level. I went to a one-day tryout for walk-ons, and I quickly thanked the coach for his time.
It's the YMCA league.
And went to intramurals where I dominated. No, anyway. So I was into sports. I love sports. I grew up just following sports. And so I got a chance to start doing co-hosting. Well, this guy gets fired, and next thing you know, I'm the co-host, or the host, I should say. I did have a co-host of the sports station at KVNA AM 600. I'm probably 19, maybe 20 years old in Flagstaff. I mean, I'm a kid, and I'm hosting at daily. It was called The Locker Room. And so I did that show for a couple years, graduated. I was trying to get into television in Flagstaff at Channel 2, the NBC affiliate. And then I ended up, coming down to the Valley, got my first gig, got hired by this PD. It was actually a great story, and I'm going to tell it just because it's about perseverance, and it's about if you want something, go get it, right? So when I got down, I interviewed for this job, and at the end of the interview, the GM or the program director said, well, it was very nice to meet you, but I don't think I want to hire you for this position. And I'm like, crushed. I'm like, wait, what? Like, no, I'm the guy. And he goes, I said, well, can I ask why? He said, well, you're overqualified for the job. I said, well,
wasn't what you were expecting.
I said, I've never heard that before, but okay. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, why don't you give me the job, get my foot in the door, and I'll make the rest happen. Word for word, dude. And the guy's name was Tim Leota. And he said, well, that's kind of cocky, don't you think? And I go, well, you just told me I'm overqualified for the job. So yeah, I guess my confidence is a little high right now. And he goes, all right, you're hired. Dude, my first shift. And when I say shift, I wish I could tell you it was on air. Midnight to 8 a.m. So Saturday/Sunday morning, midnight to 8, pushing buttons. I wasn't on air. I was a board up. I pushed a button, played the legal ID at the top of the hour, and I'm like, I'm a talk show host, man.
So suddenly who isn't overqualified for that position?
And so I realized quickly what he said. So I was waiting tables at a Mexican food restaurant downtown just to make, I had to make some money. And I'm making probably, I don't know, $6 an hour, whatever minimum wage was at that time. And so I do that for a little while, but then I told the guy, I said, hey, I want to be on air. And he's like, well, we don't have spots. So I decided to every day start making a tape, cassette, back in the day, this is the late 90s. And I would sit in a room, kind of like you and I are in right now, like a recording studio, and I would record the sports updates. So, and they were fake. I was just making them up as I go, and the Yankees are beating the Red Sox. Blah, blah, blah. I do this whole 1.5, 2 minute little sports update. And I'd put on a cassette and I would go in his office and I'd put it on his desk. I'd say, hey, will you listen to this? Tell me what you think. Dude, I did that for 30 days straight. No BS.
That's awesome.
Every day, walk in, drop off tape, walk in, drop off tape. Finally, day 30, and I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but soon after, I walk into his office one day and he literally starts cussing at me. Get the blank out of my office. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? And he goes, you start updates on Monday. This is like on a Wednesday. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He's like, no.
Why is he mad about it?
He realized I was decent at it. I think he was just getting sick of me bringing in the tape. And I think he realized that I proved him right to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And he's brought it up before, years later, when I became a talk show host and, all that stuff. He said, I'll never forget the day when you told me, get my foot in the door, I'll make the rest happen. And he goes, you made the rest happen. I go, I appreciate that. I told you I just wanted a chance, right? And so my story there is, if you want something, you got to go get it, right? Yeah. And that's what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I didn't want to work at midnight anymore on a Saturday night. I like to have a life. And so I did that. Then I became the sideline reporter for Arizona State. That's where you and I met, on the sidelines of ASU football. And I did that, and I did television, and it just kind of snowballed. And the next thing I know, I was hosting the Gambo and Ash show, and did that show for 13 years, and it was the number 1 rated sports show. And I mean, met the most unbelievable sports athletes, got to interview, you name it. I pretty much interviewed them, right. Got to know Wayne Gretzky, friendly with guys like Shane Doan and Luis Gonzalez and Larry Fitzgerald. And the list goes on. And it's something I'll never regret, even though it came to a screeching halt.
Yeah. So before we get into that, what was the best part of that? Because you were living the dream. You're in it's top 5 media market now in Phoenix, maybe top 10.
It was top 10 then, yeah.
And so you're making good money, I assume. You're doing what you want. You're rubbing
Actually,
elbows.
The money was way better than most people would think. Radio was, because I had to make a choice at one point. I was doing TV and radio. I was 20,
you're
25, 26.
Doing Fox Sports Coyotes stuff.
I was
for a while,
doing
right?
Fox Sports Coyotes. I did some ASU Fox Sports.
Yep.
I did all kinds of stuff. And it was awesome. I loved television. Loved it. It was just cool, man. It was different, because you were live. You had to look good. I had to go put makeup on. But I didn't love that part. But it was just, there was something about the adrenaline of the performance I loved. But then finally, both sides, TV and radio, said, you got to pick. Because I was killing myself. I was 25 years old. I was busting it, right? Because I didn't care. Yeah. And I chose radio. And I chose radio because there was more money in radio. And people were like, no way. I'm like, yes, because you can do endorsements and all that. So my favorite part about being in radio, a few things. One, I loved, and this is going to sound really cheesy, I loved meeting the people that would come up to me and say, dude, you make my drive home so much better. Like, that's rewarding. You know what I mean?
It doesn't
like,
get any better than that.
Yeah, I entertained people. And some people would say, man, dude, I love you, man. I can't stand your partner, or vice versa. Some guys didn't like me for, and then you just, I don't know. I like that. And then the other thing I liked was really creating relationships with some of the athletes. Not all of them, because you can't get into everyone, Okay. But I think John and I, when we did the show together, we had a pretty unique opportunity in that we were both fairly young. He's 8 or 9 years older than I am. But, at that time, I was 26, 27, 28, 29.
Early 30s, mid 20s.
Yeah, he's 35, 36, 37. So, we're younger than we are now, right?
Yep.
And so a lot of the athletes, I'll kind of forget, Steve Nash and I are the same age, right? Guys like that, Luis Gonzalez, they're our age. So we were able to kind of fit in where you've been in the media and you've seen, you've had guys asking you questions. There's a lot of weirdos and kind of nerdy guys in media.
Yeah.
Not guys you would go have a beer with.
No.
We were a little unique and guys wanted to have beers with us. And then plus it got to the point where our show was so popular and carried so much weight. Guys knew they had to come on. Because if they didn't, we could ruin them if we wanted. You know what I mean? Like
right,
if we got into fights with guys, we won. They didn't.
Yep.
We won. I don't mean fisticuffs, but I mean, verbal, Matt Williams couldn't stand us, former Diamondback. We did not make his life very nice. And what I mean by that is his life was great, I'm sure. But as far as the perception of who he was as a player, because he was kind of a jerk to the media, and we let people know that, Then there's other guys, Luis Gonzalez, Shane Doan, two of the nicest human beings ever, right? We had their back no matter what, and they knew that, right? So then they would tell us stuff, and they would give us information. And so now we're on top of the game, and we're breaking stories, and so that's the being in is what I miss the most, because I'm not in anymore. I'm out. Now I'm still friends with some of these guys. I just ran to Larry Fitzgerald last Friday playing golf. And, big hug and how you been, how the kids. I mean, it's like we had seen each other last week, even though that was the first time I'd run into him for probably 2 years. That's cool. People knew who I was, there was perks to it. So if you ask me what I miss about it, I missed that. Like being important, not that I'm not important now. I'm probably more important now in people's lives, but in a much different role. But it was being that I was part of the mix.
Yep.
That was cool.
No, I totally understand. I'll give you a quick Matt Williams story to counteract that.
Counteract. Okay, good.
Well, there's a lot of listeners that are going to listen to this in the Phoenix area. And so when I was a kid growing up in Scottsdale, our neighbor across the street was Kurt Manwaring, who was
former Giant.
Yeah, former Giants catcher. And, his kids were younger and he had 2 daughters. And so he would knock on the door every now and then and before spring training and just, hey, can you catch? I just need to throw the ball. Can you catch for me? So you're out there playing catch in the street with a MLB Gold Glove winner.
That's awesome.
And he and Matt were good friends. And when they were both with the Giants, and he and Matt Williams would come over to our driveway directly across the street, and we'd play basketball. So we'd play 2-on-2 with Matt Williams and this MLB.
And I
Gold
say
Glover.
that
he's a good dude.
No.
I've heard the same stuff, and I know how he could be, but he's got that other side too. So if you hate Matt Williams, don't hate him, because he was great to me as a kid. So I'd appreciate that.
And you know what? Let me say something about Matt Williams, and I'm backing what you say up. When I was a reporter for the D-backs early, before I was a talk show host, I was a reporter. I covered the D-backs. I covered ASU.
Right.
And I would get to know Matt a little bit, and he was so cool. His son would go out there and play and was such a nice kid, and he was really good. And so him and I would just talk about his son, and he was so proud. He was really cool. When my role changed to talk show host, he changed. He wasn't cool to me anymore. And so we, you know what I mean? But I get it. Media is
a lot of guys just put up that wall and they say, you're the media, I don't trust you, I don't say anything.
And I understand it. But we call people out if we had to, and we did.
Yeah, no, hey, you got to do.
We had some classic confrontations over the years.
So you're living the dream. You're out there rubbing elbows with everybody that matters. You're making great money. You're in your mid-20s, early 30s. You've got this number 1 show in a top 5, top 10 market. Tell me about the day it all changed.
Oh, July 20th, 2011. Not that I remember or anything like that, but it was July 20th. And we knew something was going on in our studios and in our building, because you could just tell there was a vibe. Something was happening. And so our program director said, hey, I need to meet with everyone, all talk show hosts individually for, half an hour. And I was like, okay, whatever. So mine was scheduled for a Wednesday night. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday, July 20th, 2011. I'm pretty sure it was a Wednesday. So we're scheduled for this meeting with the PD. And I'm thinking they're going to ask us all to take a little pay cut, right? Our show was still rated number 1. We'd been doing it forever. I had tons of endorsement deals. It was things were going pretty good from what I thought. And so I show up to this meeting, which happens to be at a bar, the Swizzle Lounge in Phoenix, 16th Street and Bethany Home Road. And it's a place we'd had a couple pops before, no big deal. So we go in, I walk in, and for my meeting, and so my program director is there, but also my general manager is there. And right when I walked in, I said, uh-oh, this isn't good. So I sit down. I had just signed a huge endorsement deal with Budweiser. I was going to be the voice of Bud in Arizona. Like I was going to do commercials for Budweiser, Bud Light, all the different parties and events they had. It was a 6-figure deal. I mean, it was a big deal that was getting done. To the radio station, 6 figures, not 6 figures to me. And so I sit down, they have a Bud Light sitting there for me, and they go, Bud Light, right? And I said, oh, yeah. I took a sip. I said, yeah, if I get caught drinking something else than Budweiser in town, I'll get fired. I said, but, like, what are we doing here? I was like, but what's going on? And they said, hey, we're making some changes, and tonight was your last show. And I just went, oh, time out. I go, can I get a shot with this Budweiser? Because you just rocked my world. I was 37 years old, single father. I'd gone through a divorce, and making, good 6 figures. And I was like, wait a second, what just happened? And so we talked, and they were very nice. I kept asking them what I do. Like, what did I do? Like, what did I do something wrong? And they're like, no, we're just making changes. It was nothing about you. We love you, blah, blah, but it's just time to shake things up. I'm like, why me? Why me? And I knew that my partner and I were the highest paid in the building. I knew that. And so that probably, and it did have something to do with it, but, and he had more endorsements than I did, so maybe that's why he stayed and I went.
Yeah, so just to be clear, for those that aren't familiar with the show and what happened that aren't local to the Phoenix market, the show continued.
Yeah, it just changed the name. No, the show, it did change time slots. We did Afternoon Drive. We were the Afternoon Drive show for 13 years. Our time slot at the time was 2 to 6. We were 1 to 6 for a long time, but 2 to 6. And they took John Gambadoro and teamed him up with a guy named Dave Burns, who replaced me. And I know that Dave Burns made probably a third of what I made. So it made sense from a business standpoint, right? I mean, okay. And they called it the Burns and Gambo show. But they put him in the midday. So it was a demotion for Gambo as well. And then they, about a year later, switched him back to the Afternoon Drive. And there was so much stuff that went into it. I knew what was going on a little bit behind the scenes. And so anyway, I get that sit down, and we're probably there for half an hour, and then they thank me for my service, and I got my car.
So what was your gut reaction in that moment? What did you want to do? I
was petrified, man. Honestly, I was just scared. And so I got in my car. I was supposed to go on a date with my then girlfriend, current wife, Samantha, and I called her, and I was obviously upset. And I said, and she worked at the station, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Maybe that had something to do with it. Anyway, but I said, hey, I just got fired, so I'm not going to dinner tonight. And she's like, do you want me to come over? I said, honestly, no. So I hung up, called 2 of my best friends. I said, hey, I need you guys to meet me at my house. I said, grab a bottle of vodka and something to put in it, and I'll see you there in an hour. And they're like, what? I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, I'll tell you when we get there. So they show up, 2 of my best friends. They go, dude, what's wrong? And I said, I got fired. And they're like, what? Mad. And so we started making cocktails, man. And we sat on my patio out back in my backyard, and I drank my face off. And I cried, and I laughed, and I cried, and I was scared. And I mean, dude, the whole gamut of emotions, right? In that one night. And then I was really drunk. I'm not even going to lie. And I'm not a huge drinker, but it was on that night. And so I got upstairs, it was my house. Boys spent the night. I said, you guys can crash here, man, because we're all drunk. This was before Uber, by the way.
Right. And
so they crashed, in the guest rooms, and I went upstairs in my room, and I was pretty, no pain. I went to bed, and this is not to sound cheesy or anything like that. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning about 6 a.m., right? And we stayed up till probably 1 o'clock in the morning drinking. And I woke up, and I should have been hungover, right? I wasn't. I kind of just woke up with this weird feeling of clarity. And I said, literally, F it, I'm done. I'm done with radio. And it was at that moment, I didn't know what I was going to do, by the way, but I knew I was done with radio. And so it took a while to figure out what the heck I was going to do, but I was paid very handsomely to go away because I had a contract. So they had to pay me for 6 months. And then I had a contract on top of that contract, which they ended up trying to keep, but they ended up giving me that. Plus, I got a pension that I earned. So it was actually pretty good. I got paid for about 9 months to go away. So I had the funds to live, and I could take my time and figure out what was next.
So let's stick on that. And actually, after we get back from this break, we're going to go down that path of how Mark created a successful career from scratch in that moment of just despair and sadness and reflection and clarity and how that all came together.
And drunkenness. Don't forget drunkenness.
And drunkenness. We're also going to play rapid fire right after this.
The Job Lab is brought to you by Mid-America Careers, the Midwest Career Network. Quickly search millions of jobs with a single click. Create alerts so you're the first to know when a great new job is posted. Research exciting new career opportunities, and more. No matter where you are in your professional journey, Mid-America Careers can help. Visit midamericacareers.com to claim your free account today.
All right, welcome back. Before that day where your world came crashing down and you got your boys together and you had a good night, I want to understand how you reflect now, looking back as to why you had so much clarity. But just before that day, had you ever, at any point, considered changing careers or jobs?
No. Never. I thought I was going to do radio for a long time. Now, I did say this to myself. I always told myself this. I never wanted to be that guy in media. And what I mean by that is when they told me my time was up, I wanted to be clear that, okay, my time is up. I get it. Because the one thing I never wanted to do was hang on. I've got a lot of friends in this business that have done that, and I love them to death, and they're brothers to me. But I see the struggle and bouncing from here to here, and then all of a sudden moving to this state and then that state. I have a son. I'm in divorce, at the time, one son. I now have 3 sons, but I couldn't, I just couldn't do it. It was just too hard. I can't get up and move to San Diego or move to I just couldn't, for me personally, I couldn't do it. And so I didn't want to chase all these jobs. So I always told myself, when they tell you it's time, it's time to go and don't hold on. I've seen guys that are 60, 70, 80 years old in this business still going to games every night. I'm like, dude, I do not want to do that. Like, that's not what I want to. I went to college. I got a degree. I'm not a genius, but I'm a pretty smart guy. And I know that hard work perseveres over everything, right? No matter what you choose to do. Now, we did think about maybe syndicating to a national show. That had been brought up a couple times. We did leave one station for another when we went over to KTAR. We were at Clear Channel. And so that was a move, but still it was a move for the better. It was more money and a better station. So as far as changing careers, no. And to answer your question, before you even ask it, was I a big finance guy back when I was a sports talk show? No, not at all. In fact, my current business partner was my financial advisor. That's the only way I'm in this business. That's it.
So it's a good segue, because you wake up with this clarity that do you understand where that clarity came from at that point? Is you wake up, you're supposed to be hungover, and you're like, wait, I'm over this. I got it. I'm moving forward.
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound cheesy, like it was a sign from above, or, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that it was there, and I felt it. I tell people this. I've told this story, a handful of times. It's hard to explain, except for that just when you know, right? I guess maybe it's when you find your wife and that's her. I've been with all these other people, but that's the one. Same thing. I just knew that was it. That was the moment that they told me you got to move on. And it was somewhat easy, Murph, because I was at the best station, making the most money. And when you're asked not to be at that place anymore, now I got to go here and play for, you were in the NFL and, you were asked to leave a few times, right?
7 times before I was 26.
Yeah, 7 times. Yeah. And you've been on different teams. I'm sure you could have said, well, hey, maybe I'll go play in this, pro league.
Go to Canada, go play Aussie rules football.
Right, go. Yep. I've got a leg. It's I've been given a gift, but I don't want to do that. I want to play in the NFL. And when they finally tell me you can't play in the NFL anymore, I'm done, which is what you've done. And I've always respected you for that. You got what you had to out of it. You didn't quite stay long enough for that 401k. Not the 401k, the pension.
Yeah. And what's this guaranteed contract? They pay people, they buy people out when they get rid of them?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's somewhat easy, I guess, when you know that, hey, I was here. I was at the pinnacle. And I could go do it over here. I could have gone to a lesser radio station and made probably half of what I was making and still do it. But you know what I said to myself when I made the career change and why the clarity was there? I'm 37 years old. And if I'm ever going to reinvent myself, now is the time. Okay. So I know you have listeners probably thinking maybe I reinvent myself, whether you're 27, 37, 47, but you get past that.
It's much harder to do post
50. It's a lot harder to do later in life. And that's why I said to myself, I'm 37. I could probably go do another 10 years of sports talk radio. but then I'm going to get fired again. It's like being a coach. It's like being a general manager. You're going to be fired.
Just fill in the chair.
And so what am I going to do? Recreate my career at 47? I didn't want to do that. So I saw the opportunity, like, now's the time. If I'm going to change, I had gone through personal changes, right? Because I was no longer married. I had had some ups and downs. Nothing major, just everyday, life stuff. And I said, this is the time to do it. And so I knew I was changing careers. I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I went on a bunch of job interviews, which was weird because I hadn't had a job interview since the guy when I told him to get my foot in the door. I was 22 years old. So it was a little strange 15 years later to, put on a suit and go talk. And I was looking at commercial insurance and some other stuff. And it was intriguing and there was good money to be made. But then the phone call came from John Arnold. That's my current business partner. He was my financial advisor. And he said, hey, I know what your next career is going to be. I said, oh, yeah, what's that? He said, you and I are going to open a wealth management firm together. I said, oh, that sounds like a completely stupid idea. And I hung up on him. And he calls me back. He's like, why'd you hang up on me? I'm like, because you're talking nonsense. You're my financial advisor. I paid you all this money all these years to manage my money. What? Now I'm going to do it? He's like, let's go golf. He knows the way to my heart. So we went and golfed. And he was explaining, he's like, listen, I'm starting this firm. He had been in the business since college, so he had been in for 13 years or something like that, and he said, hey, it's not what you know, it's who you know. He's like, and everyone in this town because you carried yourself the right way and people knew who you were and you didn't burn bridges. He's like, that's the battle, man. It's not what you know. I can teach you what you need to know. You'll take some tests, you'll learn as you go, but hands-on is what's going to make you get there. And I said, all right. And then I wasn't sure still. And then finally, after probably about a month, if you will, courtship, and me taking my time because I had just been paid for 9 months. So I was in no real rush to jump into anything. And so I gave him my commitment. I said, I'll give you 2 years. If I'm not good at this, I'm out. And I'm going to go back to radio and just tail between my legs and take whatever I can get. He's like, fair. He's like, but in the meantime, you're part owner. And, you're a partner of this firm. And we have a couple other partners that we brought in. And then we hired, and anyway, so my first year in the business, you mentioned in the intro, I'm sitting there doing this work, and it's tough, man, because I didn't have any residual income, so it was literally 100% commission out of the gate, and so you're just trying to put food on the table, even though I had the payment, which made it
you're
nice.
just watching debit after debit after debit,
right, going
no
down
credits.
and going down. Yeah, there's no credits, and but I ended up having a great year. I finished number one in the Southwest branch, which is all of Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. And I was top 10 in the country for first year advisors.
Yeah, that's a good year.
It was a great year. And I was like, wow, dude, okay, I guess I'm okay at this. And then the second year, I won the second year award. They call it B class of the year. And then I won the third year, C class of the year. And then I won the fourth year, DSF of the year. So I did the clean sweep of awards based off production. So I was like, crap.
Not bad for a kid who got his first job with cassette tapes.
Right, exactly. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not going anywhere. And honestly, it was the best blessing ever because now I've built my business the right way. We are a fee-based asset management firm. We manage about $350 million in assets total. We've branched out. We now have offices in San Diego, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Montana. I know it sounds random, but these are where some of our guys that we've hired and brought in operate out of. And so we're trying to expand a little bit. And it's been really fun to be a small business owner, and see the ups and downs of that and just grow my book, grow my practice. And my partner was right. Like, I know people and I've been able to get in rooms and get in front of people to be able to deliver the message of what we do as a team. But again, I use it as a team because anyone listening goes, well, why would I invest with this guy? He was a talk show host 5 years ago, right? Yeah. Exactly. That's a great point. And I bring that up a lot with my clients. Look, it's not me. It's not me picking your portfolio. I'm not choosing which ETFs or which mutual funds or which, structured notes or bonds. I don't do any of that. Full disclosure, I don't do anything with that. What I do is I meet with people. I'm the relationship guy. I'm the director of new business development is my cheesy title on my card. And I am the one that sets this stuff up, builds the trust, and then I tell them I have a staff of CFPs, the highest accreditation you can get as far as a financial professional, certified financial professional. There's other higher ones, but those are when you start getting into analytics and stuff like that. So it's a respected title. I'll never go get my CFP. You know why? Because it doesn't matter what 3 letters are at the end of my name. I mean that, and it doesn't, because I'm not the one that's going to ever sit down and break down, these investment portfolios that we put together. So it's really a unique team that we have, and it's fun. And these guys are like my best friends. I went to college with 3 of them. We're all in the same fraternity. And then I've known a few of the others, and then we've built a team of other just real solid guys, 5 NAU grads. It's good stuff. And so it's really fun to go to work now. And I'm heading into basically year 7 of doing this.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a long time. And every July, it's kind of funny. I'm on Facebook and you are as well. And every July 20th for a long time, I used to post like, today's the day my life changed forever, and I would kind of fill people in. And I wasn't bragging. I was just like, hey, 2 years ago today I was let go, and I just want to say, hey, here's what I'm doing now. And, and a few years ago I said, I think it was 5 or 6 years, year 5 or something. I said, I think this is the last time I'm going to post about this. It's the 5th year anniversary of me getting fired. I think this is the last time I'm going to bring it up,
Yep.
And dude, in the comments, I got, 400 comments or something on it. People, oh, I wish you were back. Oh, I wish you replaced this guy or that guy, nonsense stuff. But I got a lot of people that said, dude, don't ever stop telling this story, please. Because I've had people reach, DM me personally, like, bro, you have no idea. I just got fired. I'm going through so much crap right now. My wife left me. I've heard all the stories, and it sucks. And they're like, dude, your words have me so pumped right now. So just do me a favor and don't ever stop reliving that day, because it inspires people. So I was like, okay.
That's why we're sitting here having a conversation.
Exactly. And so the next year, year 6, I guess it was last year, I did it again, and I'll do it again this July 20th. And it's not bragging. I'm not bragging, because trust me, even though I'm doing great, I'm still not making as much money I was making in radio, because I was making a lot of money in that stupid business. But I'm doing well, and I'm building for the future, and I own it. And no one's ever going to pull me into a bar and say, hey, you're great as a financial advisor, but today was your last, today was your last mutual fund. You're not going to sell anymore. Like, what? Like, no one's ever going to do that. As long as I do business the right way, which I do, utmost integrity, there's no one that's ever going to get in my way. And so that's reassuring.
That's huge.
It's a position of power to a certain extent. So the
you
money,
have ownership, right? I mean, it's your direction. You're able to kind of carve your own path. You're able to set your future, and you can execute that plan without worrying about the shoe dropping.
Right.
And
but you have to take chances.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
So just to play devil's advocate for the skeptical listener, you're in a top 5 media market. Larry Fitzgerald, Gonzo, all these guys. Of course, it was easy for you to go out and make connections. So for the person that doesn't have 6-9 months of money, that's thrust into a career change, that doesn't know celebrities with boatloads of money and just so happens to be able to help them invest that.
Okay.
What did you do with the mindset? How does that work?
Okay, well, let me stop you there, because I have one former professional athlete as a client, and he was some knucklehead punter in the NFL. I don't know if I said his name, you might not even know who he is.
I guarantee nobody would know him as a punter.
My point is, see, people think that. Oh, well, yeah, so he just went and got Larry Fitzgerald's money. Not once did I talk to Larry Fitzgerald
about his money. Not once did you
probably
ask him for his money.
Not once did I talk to Shane Doan. You know what I asked Shane Doan one time? I said, hey, can I bend your ear? I said, about investments. I go, I don't want your money. I literally said, I do not want to manage your money. You and I are friends. I don't want to manage your money. I just want to pick your brain on how you got your financial advisor. And he said a lot of times it's with the agents. He goes, I can introduce you to some agents if you want, but most of those guys already have a guy, right?
Right.
And so unless you started with an agent that was just starting, you're probably not getting in.
That terrible wave together until it popped.
Right, exactly. And so I'm not trying to demean it, but I don't have a bunch of former pro athletes as my clients. Now, I have a lot of people that I've met through business, doing business of radio, whether it be live shows or commercials or things of that nature, the friendships I built. Yes, those I did, rely on to build my practice. But only one former NFL or pro athlete as a current client. It's kind of unique. So anyway, I know what you're asking though. Oh, it seems easy for this guy. It was not, man. It was a grind. There were many a times I was like, maybe this isn't right for me. Because even though I was winning awards, my job is an expensive one to have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you and I gone to have a bite to eat? Who pays? I do, right? So that happens all the time. So it's an expensive job. I have a building that we have our offices in. I have that. I have an assistant. I got to pay her salary. Like, it's an expensive career.
Absolutely.
And so as much as I loved it and I was winning awards, and on paper you might say, oh man, that guy's making great money. Yes, but it's way more expensive to do my job than it was to be a talk show host.
Yeah, the balance sheet has a lot more.
There's a lot more
overlay
exits and stuff. And so I can see when you would say, like, the skeptic out there, like, oh, that's easy for that guy. I'm not telling, if anyone's listening right now and they're a talk show host, I'm not telling you to go be a financial advisor. That's not what I'm saying. I think what you talk about is if you're in a job, maybe you are asked to leave, right? And you weren't given 9 months. I get that. That's tough. But grinders grind, right? And you might have to do something for a year that is out of your comfort zone. You might have to go drive an Uber. You might have to go wait tables. You might have to go do something while you build up something else, right? I have a good friend who was just released from my former radio station. And this is the second time he's been released in a year. And it sucks because he's great. He's great at what he does. So I don't know if it's a money thing, whatever, but I've told him, and I told him before he took this last job that he was just released from, I said, hey, you are the expert when it comes to NFL football and the Arizona Cardinals. You need to go do your own thing. Take control. Put some of your equity that you have, whatever, and build out like you're doing a podcast. Dude, podcast is the future. It's not terrestrial radio. That's one of the reasons why when I did Time Was Up, I'm like, I'm out of here. It's like a newspaper. Who goes to work for a newspaper anymore? Who reads a newspaper? Everything is about instant gratification, instant knowledge. I said, if someone, Cardinals made a trade, right? Larry Fitzgerald retires. What if you sat down in your home studio and popped out a 30-minute podcast like that was then broadcast to all your subscribers? I said, what if you charge them $1.99 a month?
Right.
To follow you and get updates and breaking news and all this stuff. $2 a month. Who's not going to do that? And what if you had 100,000 people that all of a sudden were following you? It's like, come on, man. Think outside the box, right?
Yep.
Because it's too easy to go work for, I don't know, the man, right? Go work for the business and have that W-2 income. And they put into my 401k and I get to put into mine and I have health insurance. Sometimes you got to step outside that comfort zone to get to where you want to be. There's not a lot of people in this world that are filthy rich working for someone else.
It's true. That's true. It's absolutely true. I think one of the keys too that you were able to get, and I still, it's like a whole nother show, so we're not going to go too much into it right now, but the clarity that you were able to get almost instantaneously. If before you have that clarity, you're probably just floating around. So if you've just been thrust into a job search or you're thinking about recareering and you weren't planning on it and you don't have that clarity, stop what you're doing and go get that clarity. How do you most profoundly want to use the rest of your life? Answer that question and then go take those actions. So we talked about that in previous shows. If you haven't listened to episode 1 with Chris Doris, we talk all about that there. So go back and do that. We're almost out of time. I want to get into rapid fire here in a second, but before we do, one last story. What's been the most surprising part of your journey as you look at it from right now?
Ooh. Okay, I think the most surprising is that when I told you before, the gratification I would have when a listener would come up and be like, man, you make my ride home so easy, man. You guys are awesome. And they would come up to me and you know what they would say, Murph? They would say, oh my God. Like I have people like almost like panic. Like I'm meeting Mark Asher. And I would always say, this was my go-to line.
Feels really weird, doesn't it?
It is weird. But I would say, hey bro, you and I are the same guy. I said, I just have a cooler job than you. And they would go, oh yeah, okay. Because you're a garbage man or you're whatever you were, whatever your job was. And I'm not saying your job sucks. My job was just cooler because I got to talk about sports every single day. People listen to it. Right.
Nobody wants to hear a CPA talk about what they do all day.
No. CPA, great job, great money.
Absolutely.
Boring, right? As
a perception in the public.
As a perception as opposed to being a talk show host, whatever it was. So that was always fun and gratifying to me. I think the surprise to me is how much gratification I get out of helping people in financial situations. And I don't mean by when someone calls and says, hey, I have a 401k to roll over, and you roll it over, right? I'm helping them, but anyone can do that.
Right.
It's the relationships I built with clients and then with their children or their beneficiaries. And then that client unexpectedly passes away, and you're there for the wife or the husband, the spouse, or the kids, and you help them through the process. I recently had a client who became a client when her husband unexpectedly, 55 years old, passed away. And she was a hot mess. And Nick, I spent probably half hour on the phone with her one time, listening to her cry and tell me stories. That's it.
Right.
And we didn't talk business. I wasn't being compensated for this, but I had a connection with this lady, even though I had just met her, because she was going through something tragic. And so I think what surprises me is the satisfaction I have in helping people, especially in sticky situations, wives that just got divorced and they have no clue because they've been a housewife for 20 years and their husband had a midlife crisis and decided he wanted to go ride a Harley, and now she gets half of his 401k and has no clue what to do. I enjoyed that satisfaction of making people not worry about their money and worry about just the everyday life they have to live. Don't worry about the future. We've got the future taken care of. You worry about today. It's really it's freaky how much satisfaction you get in that. So I think that's to answer your question in a really long way.
That's great. All right, Mark, are you ready to play rapid fire?
I am. Do I need a helmet?
You might.
Are you punting footballs at my head?
No, I pull my hamstring at this point, so we're going to skip
I got
the
a big
punting.
target, though, Murph. You might hit it.
All right, here we go. What do you think about when you're alone in your car?
How many phone calls I have to make?
What's your advice for your previous boss?
My advice for my previous boss. Pick somewhere other than a crappy bar in Phoenix to fire people.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, Nick Murphy. What do I want to be?
Aim higher.
I want to be one of your children because your kids lived a good life. Let me think here. What do I want to be when I grow up? You know what I want to be? I want to be a great grandfather. Not great grandfather, but just a good grandfather to my kids, because I have 3 boys aged 10, 4, and 18 months. And 2 things. 1, that means I'm still here, right? So that's a goal. And 2, I think I'm a pretty good dad. And I think I'll be a great grandfather because I'm going to spoil the crap out of those kids. And so that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a grandfather.
What inspires you?
Hard work. People that work hard inspire me. I read books about people that grind it out. I know it sounds really cheesy and cliche, and I'm not a rah-rah kind of guy, but I do believe that there's no quick fix in life. There's no such thing as get rich quick. Those are schemes and scams, and they don't work. You have to put in the effort, and if you do that, I guarantee you along the way, you will start seeing the rewards. So I believe in that big time.
What is your biggest fear?
Heights. I know it sounds. I don't fear like failure and stuff like that, but I do fear heights. Like I'm petrified. Like I did one of those rugged maniacs, and I got up on the top of the it was like a triangle, big giant, and I was on top and I froze. I couldn't get down. I was so scared of falling because my feet were all muddy.
My hands sweat just thinking about it.
I don't like heights.
Who do you admire the most?
Wow. Who do I admire the most? That's a really good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I admire, again, people that work hard. I admire people that put others first before themselves. There's not one person that I look up to. I mean, obviously, I look up to my dad. I look up to my mom. I look up to other relatives. But I don't try to pattern myself after them. In fact, I probably pattern myself a little bit different than them because I see some of the mistakes they've made along the way. That at the time I didn't know they were mistakes, but now I look back and I think they were. So I would probably say that just people in general that care, that put people first, and do right by others.
Which celebrity annoys you the most?
That's really hard. I'm not a big fan of most reality stars, even though my wife makes me watch those stupid shows. Ari Lyondike Jr. He was the last Bachelor. My wife made me watch it, and I want to punch the guy in the face. He's just so annoying. Like, he's just one of the most super annoying people in the world. And I'm like, I know why you're single at 38, dude, because you're a nerd, and you just... Anyway, he lives here in Scottsdale.
I went to high school with Ari. I don't know why.
Did you really?
All these people that... between Matt Williams and Ari Lyondike. Like,
I hate all the people who are your friends. I'm sorry. Do you hang out with Ari?
No, I haven't seen him in years, but he's a nice
Did you
kid.
watch The Bachelor?
I was forced to watch it.
Right. See, I was forced to watch it. And didn't you kind of want to punch him in the face, even though you know him?
It just seemed cheesy.
It was so cheesy, dude. And he's like, anyway.
2 more.
Yeah, these are hard sometimes.
How do you define success?
Ooh. It's not monetarily. That's first and foremost. Success is achieving your goals. Every year I put forth a list and I laminate it. I know it sounds stupid, but when you laminate something, that makes it important. So I laminate a list of goals, personal and professional. So personal might be, lose 10 pounds, do a vacation, whatever the personal goals are. And then professional are usually, acquire this many, X amount of clients, certain dollar amounts, stuff like that. That's my goal, is to get it. And when they happen, you cross them off. If you don't set goals, you'll never get to anything. You'll just keep chasing your tail, right? So you got to set goals, and then next year set them higher. And don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to set your goal higher than you think you can get. And if you fall short, doesn't mean you failed. But if you make your goal real short and then you blow it by, what are you going to tell people? Oh, my goal was this, but I did this. Well, you didn't make your goal high enough then.
You get to share a drink or a meal with anyone in history, dead or alive. Who is it and why?
Yeah, dude. Questions are good. I can share a drink with any guy, a meal, history. I'm going to go on the sports angle, and I would have a drink or a meal with Magic Johnson. And the reason why he was my idol growing up, I wore number 32. I loved him. And you want to talk about a little adversity. He had it. And what he's done in business is mind-blowing to me. And so, I'd be in awe. I'm talking to Magic Johnson, right? I stood next to him once at a Laker game. Like, he was down in the media room, and I was just like, but I couldn't go say hi to him. I don't know why. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But I would ask him about business. I'd ask him so many, but I'd also ask him about those days of playing Bird and the Pistons and all those great, rivalries.
Yeah. I met Magic at a company event in Southern California several years ago, and it came up that I played football, and he looked at me and he said, congratulations on transitioning and doing something with your life after sports. And so
that's cool.
I would love to pick his brain too. I mean, the guy's a genius. He's just, that smile is the most infectious thing in the world. He's just a genius. I get that. You survived rapid fire. Congratulations.
Oof. Those were, you should let me read them first so I can think about it. I had that one time. Let me just tell a real quick story. I know we got to go. Jerry Colangelo. I mean, the godfather of Arizona sports.
Can he buy the Suns back, please?
Yeah, please. So Jerry Colangelo, I ran into him a few years ago at Grand Canyon University, and I went up to him. I said, "Hey, Jerry, Mark Asher, how you doing?" He said, "Hey, Mark, how are you? How you been?" I said, "Good." He's like, what happened? Where'd you go?" And I told him what I did. Like, started this business. I'm in financial advising, and as genuine as I feel he could be, he goes, "I am so proud of you, and I'm very happy to hear that you've done that." And dude, that made my world, because this is a guy that, he knows sports and he knows the media game, and he realized what I did was take a chance and did something different. It was just really cool of him. We only talked for probably 3 minutes, but in that 3-minute time, he told me he was proud of me and happy for my success and wished me the best of luck. That was awesome.
Always powerful to have those. Those
amazing.
Things. What's your number one parting piece of advice for someone that's going through, and let's be specific on this one, for someone that's been thrust into joblessness, generally speaking, and thinking about recareering? What's your number one piece of advice for them? And then how can we follow you more closely online?
Okay. Don't take the easy way out. Too many times I see people, first of all, cash out those 401ks. That is not what that is there for. That is not your emergency fund. And I get it. Some people might be like, well, I gotta pay the bills. Change your bills. Like, you got to make changes. You have to be able to pivot on the move. And yeah, you might have lived in this X amount of house, square feet, but maybe that's not in the cards anymore. I mean, I had to sell my beautiful house that I had when I was in radio, and it was a dream house, dream backyard, full court basketball, just bells and whistles. I couldn't afford it anymore because I went from making a lot of money to I have no idea how much money I'm going to make. So I had to, it sucked. I didn't want to, but I gave up my dream house. I didn't go live in a, 1-bedroom studio. I still lived in a nice place, but cut my payment more than in half. So you have to do that kind of stuff. Don't just drain the 401k. It's not what it's there for. If you need to take a little get by, fine, but then go do whatever you have to do. Like I said earlier, you got to drive an Uber. You got to go wait tables. You got whatever, grind, hustle, get through until that next career move and don't, that's one, don't take the easy way out. And two, if you're given that opportunity, it sounds weird, right? You just got fired. You have to look at it as if you're given an opportunity to recreate what you are. And if you feel like you can take that chance to recreate yourself and reinvent yourself, do it. It might not be right for everyone. Maybe they say, no, I just have to go get a job. I have 3 kids and I need health insurance. Okay, I get that, right? Go get health insurance. But if you want to stop working for someone else and start working for yourself, and you have the ability or you have what it takes to say, I'm going to give this a shot, do it. Don't say I'll do it the next time. Because you might spend 5 years of being miserable, where you could spend maybe a year of not being great in a financial situation, but you're building something that down the road you're ecstatic about.
We're going to put a link to Mark's website and LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And listen, I really appreciate you being transparent and allowing us into that story. I know it was a personal and emotional time. So
it was, and I was scared, man. I was really, really scared. But, I thought, man, this is the only thing I've ever done since I was 19 years old was talk. That's all I ever did. And now I look back and I think it's really cool. I have 2 lives, basically. I had radio life, and now I have helping people financially with their retirement plans. And I'm going to do them both as great as I can. And someday I'll leave this earth and I'll be able to, have 2 things I did that were pretty cool in life. So
I know you gave our listeners a lot of ahas and things to think about today. So more than that, it's always great to catch up with you. And thanks for being here.
You are the man. I love that you're doing this. I love your business ideas and acumen. And, you've been through a little bit as well. And I think the adversity that you've been through helps you really address those topics with your listeners here. And so I'd love to come on and maybe we can tell not sad stories, because I have some really cool radio stories that we could get down to.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. We'll do that.
I got a great Kobe Shack story.
Ooh.
Oh, boy.
All right. We're going to talk about that as soon as we pause the recording here. But thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mark Asher. Look, the key takeaway is this. No matter what happens to you in your career, you can and will get back on top if you just believe it. It may be hard. It may suck. It may take a while, but you can do it. Next week on episode number 9, I'll chat with Grant Baldwin, a professional speaker and entrepreneur, about a topic that's really near and dear to my heart: how to balance work and family. Whether you have a family, kids, a significant other, or just want to protect and spend time doing what matters most to you and not become a slave to your job, you won't want to miss next week's episode. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show and make sure you never miss an episode. And if you love what you're hearing, please give the Job Lab a 5-star rating and leave a review for us out there on iTunes. And again, if you're thirsty for just a little bit more, simply text NEVER SETTLE to 44222 to get your free daily dose of career inspiration. Whatever you do, whatever you aspire to do, never settle. Thanks for being here, and I'll be back with you next week.
You've been listening to The Job Lab with your host, Nick Murphy. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or Google Play today.